What is going on? James from Mac Audio, Vernon, Connecticut. And today we're going to talk about why do you need a DSP on a motorcycle? I recently had a customer come in and he read online that you don't need a DSP if you're only using 4 speakers. In my opinion, that's not true. I know some other people that would 1000% agree with me. I don't care if you got 2 speakers, 4 speakers, 20 speakers. You add a DSP to anything, it'll make it better, right? In a car, a DSP can do amazing, amazing things. On a motorcycle, it is a lot more basic, but it still does amazing things. You're gonna go spend a lot of money on your speakers and your amp and your system, and you're gonna put it in. Why not spend a few extra $100, right? The DSP we put on this bike is our favorite Hertz DSP S8. It's $399 retail. You know, you can get them a little cheaper, a little more. If you're gonna spend $2 grand on equipment or whatever you're spending, 1,500, why not spend 400 bucks on a DSP to finalize that equipment? What's the best DSP, you ask? The best DSP is the DSP that the tuner is comfortable in tuning, or the installer is comfortable tuning, right? You give me a new DSP, I don't know, because you read online it's the best. I'm gonna take longer with it. I'm gonna struggle with it because it's gonna be a little bit different. They're all gonna achieve the same results for the most part, right? Obviously there are some really cheap ones, but once you're into that 350 plus range, maybe 300 plus range, they all pretty much do the same thing. The way we tune a DSP, we just wrapped up this bike here. You can see we have our makeshift stick with the microphone. That's roughly where your head's gonna be. The first thing we do is we go in and we turn the master gain down a little bit. We set all of our crossovers where they need to be. Then we set the gains on the amp with our master gain down. We do that, we turn it down, about 5 dB or so. We do that so that we have wiggle room at the end once this is all put back together. And if for some reason we think we can get a little more out of it, we can just turn it up via Bluetooth with the DSP. We don't got to take it apart, nothing. So we set the master gain, we set the crossovers, we set the amplifier gains. Then what I'm going to do is we got to make sure these handlebars are straight so that they are pretty much even with the, here I'm going to flip it around. So we want to make sure that those speakers are pretty much even with these speakers. So we want to make sure if you had a street glide that this handlebar is straight and everything, it's going to be like when you're riding the bike down the road, not parked on its side, because that's really not when you're going to be playing music. Then we delay your rear speakers. So we're going to delay your rear speakers so that they match the front speakers. The way I do it, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, everyone can do it differently. There is no rhyme or reason. Is if you have lowers, I'll match the lowers to the uppers. And then, which they're usually pretty good, but I'll match the lowers to the uppers, and then I'll match the rear to the uppers. What that does is it allows us to have maximum mid bass out of the speakers. Because if you got 2 sound waves coming at each other, you want them to peak around the driver's area together. So sitting in that driver's seat, you're gonna have the maximum mid bass on this bike, and it's gonna sound the best because those speakers are gonna be aligned working together. Once you get all the speakers lined up, we then do our RTA. You can RTA them individually. You can also RTA them as a pair. I don't personally have a problem with RTAing them as a pair because it's the same environment on both sides. The install should be the same if you did it right. It's not like a car where each side of the car is a little different. You got a steering wheel, one side, different size dash, whatever, and they affect the sound waves differently. I don't mind doing it as a pair if you really want to dial it in individually, but then you do each, so let's say pair of speakers, and then you do them all together. And when you do them all together, I just go in to see if there's any major peaks or major dips that we can fix, but major peaks that we want to notch down. I also personally turn down 5,000 Hertz because I found that sound is pretty annoying on the highway, so I notch it down. But once we get the RTA done, we double check it with all the speakers playing, because once you turn all the speakers on, it can change your RTA and you could get a peak or something. And we make sure that there is no crazy peaks. And then we play some music, we listen to it, and we adjust it from there. Because the RTA says it's good doesn't necessarily mean it's good. You do need to listen to it. So you think about that, what that's doing is a few things, right? The easiest way for me to explain an RTA, if you strum a guitar, you got the 6 strings on that guitar. You want all 6 strings to play with the same energy level. If one of those strings was double the volume of another string, how is that guitar gonna sound? All you're gonna hear is that string. Now, go the other way. If one of those strings was half the volume of all the other strings, you're just not gonna hear it. So RTAing the bike and making sure all your strings are playing with the same energy, ultimately it's all your frequencies are playing with the appropriate energy, because there is a slight curve that you wanna do. It isn't flat, and everyone has their own personal opinion on what that curve is. Making sure all those strings are playing with the same energy. You want to, you don't want to have a string twice as loud. If the string's twice as loud, it's all you're gonna hear is gonna sound like shit. If the string's half as loud, you're just not going to hear it, and it's not going to be as full. And then doing the time alignment is making sure that those speakers are working together better. So when you do the time alignment, we just use, on a bike, not in a car, we just use a decibel meter, and we will delay the speaker until the mid-range is at a peak, and it'll go up and up and up, and then start to go back down. We just keep it in the peak over the driver's seat. So you're really just optimizing the speakers, optimizing the tune, and making that motorcycle sound the best it can rather than leaving it up to chance. So my opinion, always put a DSP on a bike. I got 24 Road Glide, 2 speakers on it. We're about to do 2 more, so stay tuned. Diamond just came out with their new kit. But I got an amp, 2 speakers, and a DSP. Why do I have a DSP? Because I want my bike to sound the best that it can. So highly suggest DSP, all motorcycles, if you're putting speakers and an amp on. Any questions, hit me up below. Thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe and help support the channel. And we want to keep making content for you guys just like this.